Nicholas. I won't keep you very long from drinks, but I do think it's worth taking a few minutes to reflect on the amazing day that we've had. We've certainly got an awful lot to celebrate. Thinking of back to this morning and that session about the past, I actually found that incredibly inspiring. I think hearing Jim, Joan and Paul talk about what's happened previously means it's really valuable for us to stop and actually take stock of how far we've come. Back in the early 2000s, they faced huge challenges. There was disagreements to overcome, but through a mix of their ambition, setting targets, their drive, they made huge steps forward that no one would have really thought possible at the time. In fact, as we heard this morning, they were laughed at. And I think now, when we look at where we are, sometimes it can feel daunting about how, particularly at the moment with the political climate, it can feel daunting about how we can move forward. And I thought that session this morning, it gave me real hope, and hopefully you also, about those challenges that have been overcome before, and we will overcome them again. I really liked Jim's points about how we could succeed. He said about interdisciplinary working. He talked about collaboration. He talked about looking to the international more internationally. He also brought in Lego figures. And I think we need to all take a lesson from that. In that when we feel challenged, humour, always humour, is so important to take us forward. And I think that's really key. The second session was about change and how much we've done in UKERC. We heard about the public observatory, the environment work. We had Neil talk about modelling. And he said that models aren't truth machines. Not truth machines. I was so pleased. But equally, an amazing space to enable that interdisciplinary working that we've talked about. We heard Phil talk about the TPA and the phenomenal amount of knowledge that's been created through those evidence reviews. And Phil is leaving us as well. So really, really sorry about that. But I mean, what a legacy to leave. I mean, really amazing. And in terms of our data, I always think collecting data must be one of the hardest jobs, because academics, it's not that we don't want to share it, it's just want to move on to the next thing. So that was really, really great, the presentation, and to see how much easier it's become to share our data. I think those sessions, those presentations and panels gave us a real flavour of the evidence of the great work that we've done and the impact and the achievements that have been made over the years. There's been growth across everything. We've grown in terms of our interdisciplinarity. We've grown in terms of our impact. And we've really, I think, all of us realised that we need to be useful. But actually, I think most of us in this room now, we actually want to be useful. We want our research to make a difference. And I think that is so important moving forward. In terms of the impact session, which came next, those incredibly strong examples from heat, from industrial decarbonisation, and from the green grids, enormously satisfying to hear those really tangible examples of where we're having impact. But what was really nice about that session, I thought, were the comments from Jane and David, who are external users, who are here telling us that actually what we're doing is helpful and being used out there. So it's not just a self-congratulatory affair today. It's really actually evidence there by external users who are finding UKERC to be enormously beneficial. So at 20, I think it's fair to say that UKERC remains reflective and responsive to the outside world. But I really think it's equally fair to say that we're influential. We are changing what's happening out there. I particularly liked in the last session the comment of, are we a disruptor or are we an incumbent? And if we take for a minute the example of the siblings that's come up a few times. Now, I'm a little sister, and I do look to my big sister. She is certainly wiser than me, although I'd never admit that, but she is. But what I look for her is that she does disrupt sometimes, but she disrupts in a way that's strategic and thoughtful. And I think UKERC, that's our role, is that we play that big sister, we play the incumbent, because we have that wealth of evidence and experience. We shouldn't deny that. But going forward, we do still disrupt, but we disrupt with care. I think UKERC at 20 still has high levels of energy and high levels of enthusiasm. It's been shown with novelty. I thought the green grid work and the industrial decarbonisation work, incredibly novel, really shifting, looking forward. We've looked to bring in new disciplines. So Neil was keen to bring in socio-political, and Keith just mentioned about how we're bringing lots of new partners into the next phase of UKERC. We also, though, recognise there's gaps. And some of the gaps that came up were around agriculture and demand. So there's more work to be done. There's always more work to be done. And I think the fact that we still have that enthusiasm 20 years through, we're like, what can we do next, is incredibly exciting. So if I go back to 2002, take us 22 years ago, and what we were asked for was to create a networking centre of excellence to link industry, government, and research. I think it's fair to say, 22 years on, we've exceeded that. We've exceeded it in terms of the evidence we produced. We've exceeded it in terms of our impact, our scope, our stakeholders. I think it's been a fairly transformative 20 years. So I think today very much has been a celebration of the past, but as the previous session showed, it's also a huge amount of excitement for the future. And I look forward to working with everybody going forward. I just want to finish, I will release you for drinks, by saying a massive thanks, I think, to the directors, so to Jim Ski, who we heard from earlier, Jim Watson and Rob Gross, and also to say a massive thank you to the HQ for organising the day today. I really think HQ haven't really been mentioned much today, and that's a little bit of an oversight, because one of the things that's made UKERC so successful over the years has been HQ, coordinating us, organising us, pulling us together. I mean, they are remarkable in the job they do. So please can we put our hands together, say a big thank you to them, and then drinks will be downstairs. Many thanks.